Okay, we are now into the animal side of things. So weren't we? Less more. And that's... Anyways, a gigantic ocean where... Did it try and kill you, Poop? Let me give it a second to, where I can edit. Maybe you shouldn't have released it out into the wild. Maybe. You should have known releasing it might have, you know, brought it back to bite you in the ass. Okay. A gigantic ocean discovered 700 kilometers beneath the Earth's surface. Unveiling the Earth's hidden hydrosphere. I thought we didn't want to get him so that he's used to it. The quest to pinpoint the origins of Earth's water has led researchers to a monumental find. A colossal ocean is ensconced within the Earth's mantle, over 700 kilometers below the surface. This hidden ocean concealed within a blue rock known as... Is this true? Is this true? I am suddenly having a feeling. Just by looking at that ringwood... Is that... Oh! Alright. It is real. Just the name of it. It was named after the Australian earth science Ted Ringwood, who studied the polymorphic phase transitions in the comic mantle minerals. Yeah, you got me. 10 out of 10. You know those all those star naming things are absolutely not true. Ring light challenges our understanding of where Earth's waters come from. The size of the subterranean sea is so vast that it triples the volume of all plants' surface oceans. I don't know why. I just feel... Thought about reading this. I just... I found the thing interesting and I did a quick scan through, but now that I'm reading it, anyways, the size of the subterranean sea is so vast that it triples the volume of all the planet's surface oceans combined. This discovery not only fascinates with its scale, but also proposes a new theory about the Earth's water cycle. It suggests that instead of arriving via comet impacts, as some theories have postulated, Earth's oceans may have slowly seeped out from its core. Stephen Jacobson, a researcher at Northwestern University in Illinois, and lead author of the study, says this is tangible evidence that water on Earth came from within. According to Jacobson, this hidden reservoir could also explain why the size of the world's oceans has remained consistent over millions of years. To unearth this underground ocean, researchers employ an array of 2,000 seismographs across the United States, analyzing seismic waves from over 500 earthquakes. These waves, which travel through the Earth's inner layers, including its core, slow down when passing through wet rock, allowing scientists to deduce the presence of this vast water deposit. The Earth's water cycle reimagined. The presence of water within the Earth's mantle, sweating along the edges between grains of rock, could reshape our understanding of the the planet's water cycle. Jacobson points out the significance of this reservoir. Without it, the water would be on the Earth's surface, and mountaintops might be the only land visible. Now, with this groundbreaking discovery, researchers are keen to gathering more seismic data from around the world to determine if this mantle melting is a common occurrence. Their finding could revolutionize our understanding of the water cycle on Earth, offering new insights onto one of our water's most fundamental processes. Okay, now I can see where they're coming from on this. Why did I pull this up? Oh. Oh wait, it was in coinciding with this. Coinciding with this. I pre-opened that one. Yeah, Rocket? Scientists solve a 50-year mystery of what punched the giant hole in the Antarctic ice. What do you need? Something up? Something not working? What's up? Geez, guys. The last piece of a puzzle that has baffled scientists for decades have finally fallen into place. In the winter ice crusting over Antarctic Weddell Sea near the submerged peak named Maud Rise, a huge hole sometimes opens and gapes, exposing dark, cold waters below. First spotted in 1974, it doesn't appear every year, leading scientists to wonder about the specific conditions needed to produce it. In the years since the hole's reappearance in 2016 and 2017, a solution has slowly come together. Using a combination of satellite imagery, floating autonomous instruments, seals wearing hats. Sorry. Seals wearing hats, you get to see them. Yes, you do. Why would I bring up this thing if I didn't have them show it? Computational modeling, and the answers are finally in. They involve wind dragging layers of water to create what's known as an Elkman spiral. We'll get to it. Be patient. Elkman transports, says oceanographer Alberto Naviera Garabato of the University of Southampton in the UK, was the essential missing ingredient that was necessary to increase the balance of salt and sustain the mixing of salt and heat towards the surface water. Holes in the Antarctic sea ice, known as okay, I'm gonna have to say this. Polynice. Get used to it. Nai. Yeah. Nai. Yeah, nine. Back at me at that. Polynies are frequently seen close to the shore, used as windows by marine mammals such as seals and whales to catch their breath. Farther out to sea, they're less common. In fact, the reoccurring hole known as the Maud Rise Polynia has scientists scratching their heads since it first spotted in a satellite image half a century ago. In 1974, the giant hole was around the size of New Zealand. It returned in 1975 and 1976, though after that it only returned briefly and weakly until scientists suspect it might be gone for good. Then in 2016 and 2017, it returned with a vengeance, a hole in the ice the size of Maine. The Mod Rise Polynya Nai of 2017 marked the largest and longest lived example of the phenomenon since 1970s. So the scientists got to work. A compilation of data collected by aforementioned sources revealed that a number of different factors contributed and all needed to line up just right in the right way to produce a polynya. Okay, now that you've been going on and on and on about it. Ready, Rocket, for the image? Are you ready? This is just so cute! They needed, it said it earlier. Holes in the Antarctic ice, known as polynyas, are frequently close to the shore and used as windows by marine mammals such as seals and whales to catch their breath. So they're trying to graph out polynyas. So one factor was a circular current around the Wendell Sea, which happened to be particularly strong in 2016 and 2017, resulting in an upswell of warm, particularly salty water. This upwelling helps to explain how the sea ice might melt, explains oceanographer Fabian Roquet of the University of Gothenburg in Sweden. But as the sea ice melts, this leads to a freshening of the surface water, which should in turn put a stop to the mixing. So another process must be happening for the to persist. There must be an additional input of salt from somewhere. Is Mike windy? Am I breathing too hard? I mean, I do have my air conditioning on. I just didn't think that it was... whitey noise. I know. I know what's happening. Is that better? It sometimes appears, but it comes down to PC usage. Is that better? Hmm. Oy vey. Um, Salt can significantly lower the freezing point of water, so if the water in the polynya is particularly saline, or saline, excuse me, that could explain the hole's persistent. So the team went back to the data as well as computational computational models of the ocean to figure out where the additional salt came from. They determined that turbulent eddies generated as the Weddell current flows around the Maud Rise transport salt to the top of the seamount. From there, the Elkman transport takes over. This occurs when wind blows over the ocean's surface, creating drag. Water is not only pulled along, but it also deflected out sideways, like the wake on a boat, causing the water to spiral like a screw. As the top layer of water moves away with the wind, the water comes up from underneath it to replace it. In the case of Maud Rise Polynya, I'm still gonna do it that way, I'm sorry. This upwelling water brings it with it the buildup of salt hovering around Maud Rise, keeping the hole from freezing over. This key can help scientists predict what's going to happen in the Antarctic ice in the future as a matter of grave concern for global climate. Climatologists are already predicting the Antarctic winter winds are going to grow stronger and more frequent, which could see more frequent and huge polynyas in the future to come. In turn, this could have implications to the world's oceans. The imprint of polynyas can remain in the water for multiple years after they form, said climatologist Sarah Gelly of the University of California, San Diego. They can change how water moves around and how currents carry heat towards the continent. The dense waters that form here can spread across the global ocean. And that was just the... Wait. I'm putting this here. It has to do with ocean.
A team of scientists have managed to have a so-called conversation with a humpback whale named Twain. The team broadcast a recorded humpback greeting call through an underwater speaker. And Twain responded with a similar whoop noise. This exchange was repeated 36 times over a 20-minute period. The researchers say this could be a first step towards understanding non-human intelligent communication. Bubble net feeding is a highly synchronized hunting strategy in which humpback whales blow bubbles to encircle and trap their prey. When things go smoothly, the hunting team operates in virtual silence. Other times, when the group's coordination falters, the rate of successful attacks lessens and their calls become embellished. Now, scientists are attempting to work out if these sounds relay information, such as blow the net deeper, or portray emotion like, you idiot.
You idiot, yeah. Okay. Well, Slavey, I know, right? Well, dolphins are evil if you've seen Casual Geographic. Enormous ancient sea reptile identified from an amateur fossil find. Scientists have identified what could possibly be the largest marine reptile ever to swim in the seas. A creature longer than 2 nose-to-nose buses. The creature lived about 202 million years ago, along with the dinosaurs. Its fossilized Joan-ball was found in 2016 by a fossil hunter on the beach of Somerset, UK. In 2020, a father and daughter found another similar jawbone. Experts now say the fossils are from 2 gigantic or reptiles, which could have been 25 meters long. That's bigger than the huge Pilosaur, whose skull was found embedded in a Dorset cliffs and was in David Attenborough's documentary, The Giant Sea Monster. Based on the size of the jawbones, one of them over a meter long and the other 2 meters long, we can work out that the entire animal would be about 25 meters long. About as long as a blue whale. According to Dr. Dean Lomax, a paleontologist at the University of Brussels, who, no, not Brussels, Bristol, who wrote the scientific paper published on Wednesday. But he says more evidence, like a complete skull and skeleton, is needed to confirm the exact size of the creature, because just a few fragments have been found so far. The giant ichthyosaur died out in mass extinction, and the ichthyosaurus that lived after that never reached the enormous size again. The first glimpse of the creature came in 2016 when fossil hunter Paul de la Salle was scouring the Somerset beaches. He has collected fossils for 25 years after being inspired by the famous fossilist Steve Etches. What a last name, Etches. Sorry, fossilologist Etches. Trawling the beach with his wife Carol, he saw what turned out to be the find of a lifetime. The first known jawbone of this giant marine reptile. When you talk to Dean Lomax, they suspected they might be onto a major discovery. They published their findings in 2018, but they wanted more evidence to understand just how big the creature had been. We kept our fingers crossed for more discoveries, says Dean. In 2020, father and daughter, Justin and Ruby Reynolds, found what Dean was looking for, a 10-kilometer down the coast at Blue Anchor. I was massively impressed, really, really excited. I knew that right at this point we had a second jawbone from one of these massive ichthyosaurus, just like Paul's. Paul rushed to the beach and helped them uncover more. I dug through all the mud. After about an hour, my shovel hit something solid, and this bone came out perfectly preserved. I hope it didn't hit it too hard. The team, as well as family members, carried on looking for fragments of the second jaw. The last piece was found in 2022. The discovery gave them more evidence to estimate its size. Now they have concluded that the huge animal is a new species of ichthyosaur, which they have named Ichthyotitan severnus, or giant fish lizard of the Cervin. Yeah, some of these names. Dean co-wrote the latest scientific paper with Ruby Reynolds. One day he says that the specimen she found maybe even named Ruby. The specimen Paul found has been in his garage for 3 years while the team analyzed it. Soon it will go on display at the Bristol Museum and Art Gallery. It'll be a bit sad to say cheerio. I've come to know it and study it in such intense detail, but it's also a relief because I won't have to worry about it so much, says Paul. Dean says the discovery highlights how important amateur fossil collectors are. Families and all sorts of people can make amazing discoveries. You don't have to be a world expert. As long as you have that bit of patience and a keen eye, you can make that discovery. All right, on to humans. Ancient letter written by Roman emperor leads to archaeologists to monumental discovery in Italy. Letter written by a Roman emperor helped lead a team of archaeologists to an ancient temple that adds significant insights into social changes from pagan beliefs to Christianity in the Roman Empire, experts announced recently. Can't stop walking across my... He's not going to, but I still feel like saying that as a reflex now. The lead archaeologist on the expedition, Douglas Bone, PhD, announced the monumental discovery at the annual meeting of Archaeological Institute of America. According to a news release from St. Louis University, where Boyne is a professor of history. Boyne said his team discovered 3 walls of a monumental structure that appears to have been a Roman temple from the Constantine era, which ranged from AD 280 to 337, During Emperor Constantine's rule of the empire, he made the persecution of Christians illegal and bankrolled church-building projects, among other efforts, helping usher in the spread of the religion throughout the empire. According to Encyclopedia Britannica, woo! The temple was found in Spilo, a medieval hilltop city about 2.5 hours away from Rome, and near the town of I'm so sorry. I know I'm quarter Italian, but I'm still slaughtering it. I am absolutely so sorry. Assisi? The 4th century letter from Constantine helped lead Bowen and his team to the area, he said. The letter, found in the 18th century, allowed the people of the town to celebrate a religious festival rather than travel to another event, as long as they built a temple to what Constantine considered his divine ancestors. Bowen said the discovery of the pagan temple shows that there were continuities between the classical pagan world and early Christian Roman world that would often get blurred out or written out of the sweeping historical narratives. Things didn't change overnight. Before our find, we never had a sense of that there were actual physical religious sites associated with this late imperial cult practice. But because the inscription and its reference to a temple, Speleo offered a very tantalizing potential for a major discovery of an imperial cult underneath a Christian ruler. Imperial cult refers to a belief that emperors and their families should be worshipped as divine, according to the Harvard Divinity School. The practice began with the death of Julius Caesar in 44 BC, and Bowen said the 4th century temple shows the largest evidence ever of the practice in the late Roman Empire. There is evidence from other places throughout the Roman world that Christian rulers supported imperial cult practices. We know that pagans worshipped at their temples in the 4th century, but those findings have all been small and inconsequential. And we know that Christians and we've known that Christians supported the imperial cult, and we've known that without any sense of where it would have happened. And we've known that without a sense of where it would have happened. Bowen said the temple would feature prominently in further searches into the practice of imperial cult. He said that he and his team will return to the area next summer for further excavations and research in the temple. This changes everything about how we perceive the pace of social change and our impression of the impact of social and cultural change. This building, in a very radical way on its own, shows us that the staying power of the pagan traditions that have been on the ground for centuries prior to the rise of Christianity, and it shows us how the Roman emperors continued to negotiate their own values, their own hopes and dreams for the future of the empire, and the empire without knocking down or burying the past. All these, nope, not that one. I'm gonna give it pause again so that I can do the cutting of the editing while I. Alright, back, sorry. Just taking a few drinks because my throat's sore for obvious reasons. First, experimental proof for brain-like computer with water and salt. Theoretical physicists at Utrecht University, together with experimental physicists at Sogong University in South Korea, have succeeded in building an artificial synapses. This synapses works with water and salt and provides the first evidence that a system using the same medium as our brain can process complex information. The results appear in the journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. In pursuit of enhancing the energy efficiency of conventional computers, scientists have long turned to the human brain for inspiration. They aim to emulate its extraordinary capacities in various ways. These efforts have led to the development of brain-like computers, which diverge from traditional binary processes to embrace analog methods akin to our brains. However, while our brains operate using water and dissolved salt particles called ions as their medium, most current brain-inspired computers rely on the conventional solid materials. This raises the question, could we not achieve more faithful replication of the brain's workings by adapting the same medium? This intriguing possibility lies at the heart of the heart of the burgeoning field of ionotronic neuromorphic computing. Trying to say that. Artificial synapses. In the latest study published by the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, or PNAS, scientists, for the very first time, I'm going to slaughter. Who keeps using these fucking commas? Demonstrated a system reliant on water and it's not even the same person who's writing this article. Reliant on water and salt, exhibiting the ability to process intricate information, mirroring the functionality of our brains. Central to this discovery is a minute device measuring 150 by 200 micrometers, which mimics the behavior of a synapse, an essential component of the brain responsible for transmitting signals between neurons. Tim Kamsma, a PhD candidate for the Institute for Theoretical Physicists and the Mathematical Institute of Utrecht University, and the lead author of the study, expresses his excitement, stating, while artificial synapses are capable of processing complex information already based on solid materials, we now show for the first time that this feat can also be accomplished using water and salt. We are effectively replicating neural behavior using a system that employs the same medium as the brain. Ion mitigation. This device, developed by scientists in Korea and referred to as an ionotronic myristor, comprises a cone-shaped microchannel filled with a solution of water salt. So I guess this is a picture of it. Filled with a solution of comprises a cone-shaped microchannel filled with a solution of water and salt. Upon receiving electrical impulses, ions within the liquid migrate through the channel, leading to alterations. Oh my god, I don't know why it didn't cross my mind on how to say that. Leading to alterations on concentration. Depending on the intensity or duration of the impulse, the conductivity of the channel adjusts accordingly, mirroring the strengthening or weakening of connections between neurons. The extent of change in the conductance serves as a measurable representation of the input signal. An additional finding is that the length of the channel impacts the duration required for concentration changes to dissipate. This suggests that the possibility of tailoring channels to retain and process information for varying durations, again akin to synaptic mechanisms observed in our brain. The genesis of this discovery can be tracked back to an idea conceived by Kamsa, who began his doctoral research not long ago. He transformed this concept, centered around the utilization of artificial ion channels for classification tasks, into a robust theoretical model. Coincidentally, our paths crossed with the research group in South Korea during that period. They embraced my theory with great enthusiasm and swiftly initiated experimental work based on it. Remarkably, the initial findings materialized just 3 months later, closely aligning with the predictions outlined in Kamasa's theoretical framework. I thought, wow, he reflects, it's incredibly gratifying to witness the transition from theoretical conjecture to tangible real-world outcomes, ultimately resulting in these beautiful experimental results. Kamasa underscores the fundamental nature of the research, highlighting that in ionotronic neuromorphic computing, while experiencing rapid growth, is still in its infancy. The envisioned outcome is a computer system vastly superior in efficiency and energy consumption compared to the present-day technology. However, whether this vision will materialize remains speculative at its juncture. Nevertheless, Kamsma reviews the publication as a small step forward and represents a crucial advancement towards computers not only capable of mimicking the communication patterns of the human brain, but also utilizing the same medium. Perhaps they will ultimately pave the way for computing systems that replicate the extraordinary capabilities of the human brain more faithfully. Well, it can also help people who have had damaged ones, if you think about that. Yeah, I'm going to leave that one for last. All right. Why do people hear their names being called in the woods? I don't know. Auditory pareidolia is a phenomenon in which people can hear familiar sounds from a seemingly static background noise. You're walking through the woods. Horror, horror. You're walking through the woods, no one else is around for you to hear it. Excuse me. Faintly, from the background hum of the forest, you impossibly, heroically comes the sound of someone calling your name. Could it be a ghost, Bigfoot, some elaborate prank, practical joke by a prank TV show? You mean YouTube show? Well, it's likely none of those. Why do people sometimes hear their names or other words being called out when no one is actually saying anything? And is it ever something to worry about? I don't know. Why don't we ask the voices in my head? Yep, my voices say no. You shouldn't worry about it yet. Sorry, I'm going back to reading the article. The phenomenon of hearing intelligible voices or noises in meaningless background noise is known as auditory pareidolia. Sources of this noise vary. They may include electric fans, running water, airplane engines, the hums of washing machines, or white noise machines, according to audiologists. It is an auditory subtype of pareidolia, in which people see faces or other meaningful patterns in ambiguous images. That's probably the only reason why I know how to say pareidolia. I've heard that. I used to watch a lot of ghost hunting when I was younger. Auditory pareidolia isn't considered a type of auditory hallucination, which occurs when a person hears sounds that doesn't exist in reality and appear without any external stimuli, such as white noise. Such hallucinations are common in various mental conditions such as schizophrenia, post-traumatic stress disorder, and bipolar disorder. Non-psychiatric hallucinations have been reported by those with hearing loss, although the condition known as musical ear syndrome is relatively rare and understudied. But people with and without these conditions can experience auditory pareidolia, which emerges specifically from background noise. But why does auditory pareidolia appear in the first place? Think of your brain as having this big database of patterns. All the words you know and all you've ever heard in your life are there. Neil Ballman, an audiologist and CEO of the Center for Hearing Loss Help, based in Washington, told Life Science, it chooses what it thinks is the best pattern. That best pattern may not be right at all. In fact, it could be way out. The sounds a person hears when experiencing auditory pareidolia aren't completely invented by our brains. Oh? Okay. Um, Rather, they stem from a misperception of real sounds. For example, an unexpected peak in a static signal or in the background noise coming from a forest. Are you going to share it to me on Discord? Okay. It's not showing up for me. Or you haven't sent it yet. Oh, there we go. Oh no. Oh no. Let's see.
Of course! Don't you know anything about science?
I mean, that works. That definitely works. I'll figure out where I'm gonna... I've been thinking about looking at the price of soundboards. Wondering if I should get one. But no, I like that. The patterns in most noise sources change all the time. Andrew King, director of the for the Center for Integrative Neuroscience at the University of Oxford. The names of these centers, oh my god! Integrative Neuroscience at the University of Oxford told Life Science, take white noise. Averaged over time, it becomes flat, but there will be certain points where the pattern significance is slightly different. That may be enough to trigger a person to recognize something. King attributes auditory pareidolia to our brain's constant attempts to make sense of and find patterns in the world around us. It can be especially likely to occur when somewhat recognizable noises are masked by background hum of a noisy environment, such as a restaurant or bar. In these cases, the brain utilizes a process called contrast gain control, adjusting the sensitivity of brain cells that respond to auditory and visual data so that they can adapt to the constant input. A highly evolved capacity to maximize the likelihood of being able to hear communication or other sounds may be very important, King said. In other words, humans may be wired to listen for snippets of language in the din of background noise, even if they aren't necessarily there. Despite being commonly reported, auditory pareidolia is not as well studied by neuroscience as its visual counterpart. That's in part because the triggers that can make people mishear certain sounds are not as consistent or predictable as those that may make them falsely recognize faces, such as the man in the moon. To extent this is a bottom-up process driven by statistics of stimuli as opposed to a top-down attention-based mechanism is pretty unclear, King said. Bottoms-up processes relies on the brain's piecing together bits of stimuli to make sense of them, while top-down processes is more driven by our expectations and prior knowledge. I'm going to state something, if I can remember by the end of this article, that's an interesting fact that neuroscientists, I don't remember, I don't have an article for it, but I remember them talking about it when they were doing MRI scans that involve with pareidolia, which I could probably just try and search it up. While top-down process is more driven by our expectations and prior knowledge, you'll be more likely probably to pick out something that's familiar to you, but that's purely speculation, King said. He thinks it's probably a top-down process. So if you hear your name being called from the dark depths of an abandoned forest, you might not need to turn around and flee in the other direction. But if you're concerned when you're hearing voices where no sound exists, that might be worth getting professional help. The voices in my head say no. I forgot how it's spelled. Because it was a study, it was a while back, but it basically... okay. I guess I'm not going to try and look too hard for it, but, the thing that they did this study on was, how older people, especially with younger people using emojis back when, you know, they didn't actually have faces to some degree. It was like using the, you know, the winky face, the smiley face, and all the other stuff using the, okay, my mind's dying, the parentheses and all this other stuff. I'm forgetting the names of the different, colon, using the colon as the eyes and the, like, parentheses for the face and stuff. And how, for younger people who would use, of course, we're on the internet or using phone, like the texting phone and stuff, the part of their brains that would light up to recognize faces would light up with that. In the younger people who would be using technology such as that, so that their mind would immediately recognize that as a face, while in older people they would not recognize that as quickly as a face, human face. If at all, would it light up in that area. And one of the other things they later tested was to see whether, if, like, you put the, I'm gonna show it in stream, whether when you did the face that was shaped this way, or the face shaped... Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, face this way or that way was more likely to recognize the parts of the brain that light up in the scan as recognizing it as a face versus not. And the face that was on this side was far more likely to be recognized as a face than the parts of the brain that would recognize this side. Probably would be better, maybe. Up. Wrong thing. The other side. This side. And the pure speculation on that is because one of them was more commonly used on that side than the other. But let me find a... Pull up. What I'm talking about when I say, somebody were to do this. Actually, how about I actually use typing for that? Maybe that'd be a good idea, so it can prove the point. Somebody would create a face like this, and a text. The mind was more, especially with younger people, was more readily able to recognize that as a face than doing it this way. And the study also proves, since we're dealing with, what's it called? Pareidolia. That it was able to recognize that as a face in the light up parts of the brain the same way you would as another human face for the younger people. So it was just an interesting study. I'm not really going to go out of my way to try and find it, but it was... Because there was, if I remember correctly, it was rotating around the idea that emojis and texting was all bad for people and stuff, and it was during that time frame of stuff, you know, being scared of everything. All right. Oh wait, yes. Actually, I needed to do this one earlier. Bizarre fossils are neither a plant nor animal, but a weird fusion of life. I mean, yes, but it was more extreme before. Bizarre animals are neither plant nor animal, but a weird fusion of life. If you've ever find yourself playing a game of 20 questions, there's a little known life form that you can pick to sure leave your opponent stumped. It is neither animal, vegetable, nor mineral. It's not even a bacterium or fungi. It's called euglinid? Euglinid, I guess. It's a weird fusion of a bunch of different living things. Euglinids are a group of unicellular eukaryotes that gain energy through both photosynthesis like a plant and through consuming other beings like an animal. These aquatic organisms split off from other eukaryotes roughly 1 billion years ago, and yet their fossil record for all that time on Earth is scarce. Now, an international team of scientists argue that they have found ancient euglinids fossils hiding in an extensive paper trail of already published scientific research. For years, the shell-like fossils were misidentified as possibly worm eggs, algal cysts, or fern spores, particularly because of their tiny circular ribs on the inside. The fossils didn't really fit into any taxonomical box, so in 1962, the science called them shells. I'm sorry again for my slaughtering of stuff. Their similarities over the years have stumped experts as these fossils spanned immense timelines for almost 500 million years ago to the present. I'm about to slaughter this person's name. I am sorry. Andreas Koltsodendris studies microscopic fossils at the Heidelberg University in Germany, and he says that while analyzing drill cores from the lakes in Greece, he regularly encountered fossils of these thin-walled oval life forms. I know, right? Probably would be in the School of Menses. Their biological affinity has never been clear. In fact, the cysts are commonly figured in publications by colleagues, but no one was able to really put a finger on it. Then a breakthrough came in 2012. Paleontologists Bas van de Schoutsburg and Paul Strother were working on identifying some confusing microfossils from sediments that date back to the Triassic-Jurassic boundary about 200 million years ago. The circular ridge cysts, they realized, could be euglinids. Because here's the other wacky thing about euglinids. In times of stress, these organisms wrap themselves up in a protective cyst, which looks sort of like a three-dimensional thumbprint and enter a dormant state. Some of the fossils we encountered show a canny similarity to the cysts of the euglina, a modern representation that has been described by Slovakian colleagues. Recall Strother, who works in Boston College. The problem was there was only one publication in the world making this claim. To figure out if they were right, Strother and von D. Schrotzberg, who is now at the Utrecht University. Oh, we just talked about the Utrecht University. I'm saying it right. University joined fellow paleontologists from the US and the UK to comb through nearly 500 literature sources on pseudo-like fossils. These fossils have acquired various names over the years, so that's even harder than it sounds. Using advanced microscopic techniques, they established the structure of these cysts. We were much surprised by the ultra-structure of the cysts, says paleontologist Wilson Taylor from the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire. The structure of the walls does not resemble anything that is known. The ribs are not ornaments, like in pollen and spores, but part of the wall structure. The layered structure of the walls is also clearly different from many other freshwater algae. Researchers struggled to get living euglenids to insist in the lab, but a YouTube video by microscopy enthusiast Fabian Weston from Australia made for a perfect comparison. Let's see. Will it play? Eugleniid. Pull this up so we can stare at it and know what's happening. We won't know what's happening. Oh, it is coming into focus. That's kind of cool. Wait. Hold on. So it starts building up on the outer wall. Wait. I mean, you kind of notice on the sides that there's kind of it's so kind of pretty looking in its own interesting way, and the thumbprint things are showing up for a second, or it could just be the blurring of it, but the fingerprint kind of thing. Yeah, you can kind of see it. So cool looking. Unwittingly, Fabian provided a key piece of evidence. He's probably the only person on the planet to witness Euglena cyst under a microscope. Now that the researchers have established a possible deep timeline of euglenid life, Strother hopes that it will make it easier for scientists to recognize even older examples, possibly ones that go back to the very root of eukaryotic tree of life. I'm forgetting how to say it. Perhaps related to their capabilities to insist, these organisms have endured and survived every major possible extinction in the planet, suggests Van de Strodenberg. Unlike the behemoths that were done in by volcanoes and asteroids, these tiny creatures may have weathered it all.